Hello, this is Angie Yingst, and you're listening to Centered, grounded conversations about the metaphysical. Hi, it's Angie Yingst again. You got me for a second week in a row of just reading essays and thoughts and riffing. I just wanted to take a minute to talk to you about pain, discomfort, and suffering. Yeah, all those joyous things during the holiday season. I know it sounds funny, but I'm really resistant to talking about happy, happy, joy, joy. I just want to acknowledge that suffering actually happens even during Christmas time. And I wanted to tell you a story. In 2014, I was 40 years old, and my husband and I had just moved to central Pennsylvania in late 2013. And we were thinking about our lives. It was actually March 21st, and we were thinking, and my husband had scheduled a vasectomy, and we thought, let's have a date night and spend some time together. And we talked about whether we ever felt like our family was complete since our second child had died, and we'd had a miscarriage, and it just always felt like someone was missing from our family. And we decided to kind of spin the wheel of life, card 10, right, in the major arcana. And we decided to try one time before my husband's vasectomy. And if we were supposed to be pregnant, and if that's what the universe wanted, we would be pregnant. And lo and behold, at 40 and 41, we found ourselves pregnant. And they call you all kinds of things like a geriatric maternity. I forget the wording. All that to say is, I was very high risk because of how old I was and how many losses I had had. And so at that time, I was working crystal healer. I had just started at Altaview Wellness Center, and I had a DNA activation and all kinds of cool things. And I thought, I'm just going to charge this baby up. I even became a Reiki master during that time. And I had all my crystals ready. I wrote about it. You can find the blog post on my blog. And because of everything, they scheduled me for an induction. And I've had my third child, they did the same thing for. And I thought, I don't want to be induced. I just want this baby to come naturally. So I'm going to just do some natural nudging. And so I went out for spicy Indian food before my Tommy was born and went into labor. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. So my mother was staying over, and I got spicy pho. I put lots of spice in it. And then we bought a pineapple because I heard pineapple induces. And I ate an entire pineapple and spicy pho. And my water broke in the morning. And I thought, I don't have to do an induction. I was so excited. And I labored for almost 30 hours. And it was not rough going. It was pretty easy, just sitting there waiting for this baby to come. And about 1 a.m., the doc came in and said, your water broke too long ago, and I am going to have to induce you or C-section you to get this baby out if you do not have this baby before 2 a.m. So I thought about it, and I got my ruby and kyanite and rubbed it all over my belly, and I did all kinds of Reiki, and I just saw myself opening. And at that point, I was 3 centimeters dilated. And if you know anything about giving birth, that's not enough. You have to be at 10. And it was so, so painful. I kept asking for the nurse anesthetist to come back because I was in so much pain. And turned out that within an hour, I opened from 3 to 10, which is where that pain came from. And my little boy, I pushed 2, 3 strong pushes and he was out. And he was just so perfect. He had white hair and he was just absolutely looked like he was from outer space. He was just gorgeous. If you know me, I'm Central American, so I have dark skin and dark eyes. And this is just this amazing baby that really looked like he was from outer space. And um, I had done so many prayers and Reiki and all this stuff. And the thing is, he came out and he didn't cry and he didn't scream. And they grabbed him away from me and they rushed him to the NICU because there was fluid in his lungs. Those were really hard days. After you lose a child, you have so much post-traumatic stress. It's kind of hard to explain, but my arms physically hurt. I wanted to hold him so badly, and I just sat by his little tank. It looked like he was like in a little fish tank, and I would just talk to him and sing to him and wait until the one time they would let me hold him. It was so hard. I just kept thinking, scream. All you have to do is scream and cry. And what they told me, what the doctor told me, was the reason that he had fluid in his lungs was because of the very easy birth that we had. 3 strong pushes. It's all I prayed on. It's what I focused on. Just make this easy. I just don't want to be suffering that much. And that's what I got. A very easy push. All that easiness was not good for my son. He was really content when he came out. He laid on my breast. He was warm, and I held him. It's what they don't tell you. All that struggle down the birth canal serves a really beautiful purpose of pushing all that fluid out of their lungs and pissing those little babies off. I thought about that so much. I've thought about it since that point. I think about it all the time, especially when I'm suffering and when I'm in pain and when it just doesn't feel like it's going to get any better. We have to scream and struggle against our own contentedness sometimes. One of my religion professors, John Rains, he's really one of my mentors. He used to say that babies cry and scream because they want justice. And we come into this world knowing that we deserve comfort and love and food and heat and people to care for us. No baby feels unworthy of love. No baby feels unworthy of food. As anybody who's struggled with an eating disorder, you know that's sometimes how you feel. As a fat woman, I know I struggle with that sometimes. No babies hate themselves. Babies scream because they won't settle for just being ignored or unloved. They only stop screaming when no one comes. I think about that sometimes too, as someone who doesn't scream very often. You know, we talk a lot about the low vibration of anger and screaming and discomfort and pain. And I find it so frustratingly ignorant of what this process is and what spiritual work even is. You know, we have this grief and sadness and suffering and illness and depression and loneliness and stuckness. And that stuckness is the point of the story. The stuckness is where the healing starts. Nothing changes if everything is happy. What's the point of changing that? When you're at the point before the scream, when you're stuck, the scream is like saying, I am worthy of not suffering. Think of a baby and a mama. Like my first child, I pushed for 2 hours. I did not enjoy that. That was not an easy birth. There was suffering. I was pissed off. The baby was pissed off. She was stuck. We were frustrated. I was not thinking about my spiritual condition. I was thinking, get this baby out of my fucking vagina, you know? Get out, child. I also thought this was the worst idea of my life to have children. What was I thinking? I did not think how awesome it is. And I'm sure the baby wasn't thinking, this is so awesome. I'm so happy I'm leaving mommy's belly and I get to experience the whole world. The baby wasn't thinking, oh, this whole process is going to get all this fluid out of my lungs. No, they're stuck. We're all overwhelmed and we can't see the light at the proverbial tunnel. I think we do a huge disservice to tell people that they need to focus on the point of their suffering while they're suffering. Yes, our suffering is there for a purpose. Our stuckness helps us get unstuck. And yet, it's really not helpful to be reminded that when we're suffering. Struggling with gratitude is the practice of gratitude. If I didn't say that last time I shared, I want to reemphasize that 1,000 times now. All we have to do is trust that our feelings, when they arise, are important and right and valuable for the next phase of our healing, even if we don't like those, even if other people shame us for it, even if they feel negative or sad or self-pitying or petty or evil or whatever we want to label them. The suffering, the feeling less than, the feeling stuck, the feeling unworthy, that's the gateway to the scream. So let it be a catalyst for feeling worthy of not suffering. When we scream and complain, we're basically saying, I demand justice. I deserve comfort. So when I'm suffering, I really try to keep it simple. This last week has been a terrible week for me. On about 5 days ago, I threw my back out. Apparently, my SI joint got out of whack and I couldn't sit in comfort. My pain level is at like childbirth level. And I noticed myself crying. And my husband noticed a few times. He said, it was so much like childbirth, like when you've been giving birth the way you are, that I knew the pain was really intense. I was decidedly not a Buddha, but I did find myself sitting still in meditation a lot because I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't focus on the radio. I couldn't focus on the TV. I couldn't distract myself. The pain was so intense. I often thought, is this what life is? Like, I don't want to live this life if my life is just suffering. It was a pain that wasn't even worth an X-ray at the ER or an MRI. That's how many times they see that. But the things that could help me in those moments was just being really present with it and just get through a minute or a second at a time. It's remarkable that we get to have a community. That's honestly, I guess, the point is that we need people who will abide our screaming. and not try to shift us out of it and make us see some kind of grand gratitude scheme. You know, you're stuck. I see it. I hear you. I understand you're stuck. I understand you're in pain. I see you. You're allowed to scream. You should scream. You deserve justice. You deserve love. You deserve kindness. You deserve compassion. So instead of telling people to be thankful, be thankful, why don't we ask them if they're ready to scream yet? It's our birthright to scream after all. We don't need to shame people. What was interesting is I decided to put it on Facebook that I was in pain and ask for healing from people. I give a lot of healing out. People say, oh, I threw this out. This is happening. I lost my dad. This has happened. I say, oh, I'll send Reiki. Would you like me to send healing? And I include them in my prayers. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to ask for that. And I had so many beautiful, I'm sending, and I felt that surrounding. I also had a lot of people tell me things that I'd done wrong, that they thought that what was causing my pain was all emotional stuff that they thought I had done, even though some of them didn't even know me at all. And, you know, it made me sort of laugh. What could I do? You know? That's what happens when you put yourself out there. Some things are helpful, some are not. You know what did come was my friend who's a PT said, I think I know exactly what you're going through. Come over to my house and I'll help. And she helped. Oh my gosh, she helped. So rather than shaming those who are struggling or hurting, let's allow them to scream. Let's just abide their stuckness. Let's marvel at their righteous indignation at their own suffering. Hey, don't you want that? Don't you want someone to say to you, you don't deserve this. You deserve better. You may not get better, but you deserve better. And when you're ready to scream, all that fluid, all that stuckness comes out. When we scream, we can breathe in clean, fresh air. We can fill our heart chakra up with the love we deserve. My son turned 6 this year. 6 years of thinking about screaming. And you know, he is just like a ray of light in my life. He definitely is from another universe. And I remember when he was in the NICU, I had called my friend Jack, who died recently. It's probably been more than 2 years now. It feels so recent. I miss him. He is a recovering alcoholic like me. And he said, yeah, it's hard to be human, Angie. I hope he has an easier time of it than I did. Which always made me laugh. It's hard to incarnate. You forget to breathe. You forget what it's like to be human. You forget what it's like to suffer. So I want to just say to you, scream, 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 and I'll be dancing to your beautiful siren song of healing. If you have any questions that you want me to cover, anything that you want to talk about, you can always leave a message on my Anchor page or on my website, angieyingst.com. Just send me a voicemail at angie@themoonandstone.com. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to Centered with me, Angie Yingst. If you'd like to send me a question or comment about this show or any shows, you can send them to Angie@themoonandstone.com.